What's shaking, everybody? It's House Divided here on Orange Bloods Live. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Chad Hastings. Gonna be with you for like the next hour or so. Do us a solid. Slam that like button, subscribe to the channel, get notifications, bam, bam, bam. Knock it all out. We do appreciate it. Thanks to everybody jumping in to the Specs chat. Yes, Sark After Dark, you're first today. Well done. A lot of stuff that we'll be getting into today on the show. It's funny. I feel like sometimes on an individual day-by-day basis, we beat a dead horse with a club until you don't even know that there used to be a horse. Yesterday is a kind of a perfect example, right? I mean, we're in the middle of Texas spring football, but man, as soon as there was a note on Texas spring football, it was Ryan Wingo this and Ryan Wingo that. And then we talked about Connor Hayden. And then the next thing you know, 3 shows have gone by here on the channel, and we've all kind of talked about some of the same things. So I thought, Chad, I just don't know that I have a whole lot in me left, specifically as it relates to practice from yesterday. So let's just throw it out there. Guys, today we'll be taking your questions. Anything that you've got, send it our way. We'll have buy or sell later in the show. We'll do all of the things that you expect from us. Who knows? Maybe today would have been a good day to get a guest. But no, we want you guys to get your questions answered. What are you thinking about? What about the Texas football team have we not talked enough about? So we'll take your questions, we'll answer them, and we'll just make a day of this being useful information to the Texas Longhorn football kingdom and kind of go from there, Chad.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff already coming in.
Question that I dearly want to answer.
I mean, Sark After Dark wants WrestleMania talk, so who knows? That you just never know.
Come with that like in 20, 25 minutes.
There you go. Sal's in New York City. Some greetings from Gotham. We got hook 'em emojis coming in. I like this one. Just a, run the thumbs up. There you go. That many likes would be great, Sark After Dark.
Your Aggies did get a commitment today. This one's a weird one, Chad. Landon Rink, a Longhorn legacy, commits to the Aggies today. And what is the end, I guess, to a really fascinating recruitment. Son of former Longhorn Shane Rink, who played like those were Brian Jones years back in the day.
Yes.
For Shane Rink, if I'm not mistaken. I'd have to look up exactly when those were. But Landon Rink commits to the Aggies today. It felt like it was either going to be them or Oklahoma. Any thoughts on Landon Rink to the Aggies?
Yeah, it's in fact, I did not realize that till Sark After Dark threw it up there. Obviously, there'd been a lot of discussion. We discussed him in one of the recruiting hours, and it was weird that the 2 big rivals were not just kind of in play, but really in play. And for it to end up A&M, I am surprised.
Yeah, the first time I saw Landon Rink, his film, I was blown away. I thought when I watched him as coming out of his sophomore year, I was like, what a phenomenal freaking football player. And I still kind of think that. What's interesting about Landon Rink is that he's no doubt about it a tweener. He doesn't really have the size of either a defensive tackle or a defensive end, which you would prefer. So I'm not quite sure how his game, Chad, equates to college football. But at the high school level, he's a pretty freaking dominating player. And if I told you, he's 6'4", 250, and you watch the film, you'd be like, hot dog, that guy can start and play for anybody in the country. Then if I tell you, well, he's a little bit shorter than that, and he's not like the most massive human being in the world, then you'd go, okay, well, we'll make something out of him. The thing is, he can play football. Where exactly he plays at the next level, I think will come down, does he have a defensive staff that's comfortable with putting him in exactly the right position to get the most out of him? I don't know that he's not a nose tackle. I don't think he's a 3 tech. Is he a 5 tech? Because I don't think we're talking about a 7 or a 9. So he may have to be a guy that's a little bit of an undersized 5. But again, in terms of playing football, that dude can absolutely do it. I saw this one and I wanted to address it, Chad. And by the way, just joining in. Give us your questions. We're taking questions all day long. We're going to be as interactive with the Specs chat as we can absolutely be. Scott asked, where did the term volleyball clap come from? What happened to golf clap? Let me tell you what happened, Scott. We were watching college volleyball last year. And one of the things that just stood out after watching tons and tons of college volleyball is that the women in college volleyball are the most supportive athletes I've ever seen in my entire life. Your teammate can serve and hit the net. They can hit a ball out of bounds by 100 feet on a key point. And in volleyball, they clap for each other. No matter what happens, good, bad, terrible, great, they're just super positive. And so we wanted to adopt that mentality that we would support each other the same way volleyball players support each other. Watch a volleyball game if you haven't seen one in a while, and watch how they clap and like lift each other up point by point in ways you don't see in other sports. Like football players definitely don't do the volleyball clap, but even something like women's basketball side by side with volleyball's just got like its own thing going on, and we're here for it.
Yeah, no doubt. And golf clap is still there. Just so you know, Scott, it's not like one took the place of the other. If you need a polite, light golf clap, that's still there. That exists in its own world. Volleyball clap, little different. Kind of a cousin of I think the softball world, Ketch, does have a lot of that just flat out support. But with with softball, it feels like there's a little more choreography sometimes of chanting, and you got to really know what's going on. Like you got to know the script. But in volleyball, like you said, it's just flat out. You fall on your face. Hey, it's okay. All right, let's go. Let's get up. Let's go. Let's do it.
Every play, no matter how bad it is, those women lift each other up. It is the kind of attitude that if we all had it in everything that we did in life, I think that we'd all be better for it. So we adopted the volleyball clap just as a way to be supportive amongst each other here on the show.
There it is.
We applaud effort is what we do. If Chad falls on his face horrendously, never been known to happen, but if it did, you'd lift him up with a volleyball clap. Let him know it's okay. We're going to be right here with you all the way through the rest of the show.
There it is. Thank you for that chat, Scott. If you want to throw us a super chat, it will go right to the front of the list. This chat just came in. Kirk Bowles invented both volleyball and the volleyball clap. Little known.
That's the youngest that anybody in the Specs chat has ever made, Kirk Bowles.
Yeah, Teta, we appreciate that. I'm sure Kirk would appreciate that too. Occasionally we need some Kirk Bowles' young jokes in here just to balance it out.
Usually it's like he was here, back in the 8th century. He met Christopher Columbus when Columbus sailed across the Atlantic. Like there's lots of those types of jokes.
Yeah, there you go. Our man Jared in Ennis wants to know, buy or sell, Justin McLemore was better than Jackson Shipley. Ooh, man. It's got to be, I think that's a sell.
It is a sell.
Now, Justin would tell you it's a buy, but Justin would tell you he's better than Jerry Rice.
Have you ever met Justin McLemore?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't call us friends back in the day, but yeah, he was a senior when I was a freshman. So
I don't think I ever met Justin McLemore. Look, Justin McLemore was a fine player. He was solid. I think Jackson Shipley was a little bit better than that. Neither of them are Jordan, but Jackson was a good player. Yeah, I would put Jackson a little bit ahead of Justin, but Justin might have been a better athlete.
Yeah, that I was going to say, just as far as a flat out overall athlete, I'll go with Justin McLemore there because he is a legend in my hometown. So shout out to Justin if he's out there today. All right. Here's one for you off of a note yesterday and from practice. Can Trey Moore play linebacker next to Hill to get the best 11 on the field? There's a question I haven't thought of.
Well, they put him in a little bit at Sam throughout camp. Again, they're still trying to tinker around and figure out ways to do exactly what you're talking about, Mark. I don't think you're going to see him play in and play out line up at linebacker next to Hill. For instance, I don't know how many times we would see consecutive plays of Trey Moore playing Sam linebacker next to Anthony Hill. But are there moments where Trey Moore could come in and play linebacker and you've got Ethan Burke and Baron Sorrell and or Colin Simmons? Yeah, no, I think situationally that they're tinkering with the way that they can get their best players on the field. We know they've already done some of that with Trey Moore, so I would take the can out of there. The question may be, will they? They've practiced with that. Is that something that they feel like when they get into the games that is the answer to the situation in the game? I don't know. Curious minds will wait and see what that looks like. But they're doing that. At what level can they do that, I think remains to be seen. Moore's at his best when he's coming forward. So if you're putting him at linebacker and then devising ways to get him moving up the field and attacking, then I think, that's potentially just another way to get the best out of Trey Moore. You might also be setting up situations where there's no way he's going to catch a double team. Can you create matchup problems with twists and stunts? And I think, again, these are things that they're trying to figure out on their way to building a depth chart and a plan for the season going into September.
Mark, thank you for the chat. Cotton, this is unnecessary. I'm not even going to read it. How dare you? That's just rude. That's absolutely rude. But we've got some more chats coming in. If you want to throw,
when was the clap invented? What? I'm Googling that right now.
I think that'll skew him a little younger, won't it?
That's what I was thinking too. Because that feels like a 50s and 60s thing.
Yeah, certainly at the time it would have been it was when it was referred to as the clap as well. Like that's the other thing.
Okay, so technically the clap is just gonorrhea. I don't think I knew that.
That is true. I've read an article. I have no knowledge.
And according to Google, gonorrhea is nothing new. The sexually transmitted infection has been written about since 2600 BC.
Oh, never mind, Kirk. We're sorry.
And it's been known as the clap since medieval times.
Oh, no. So it is that might be the oldest joke we've had.
Yeah.
Well done, Cotton. That's volleyball clap. Well done, Cotton. Good job. Good job.
Something about the nickname clearly resonated because many still refer to it as the clap nearly half a millennium later.
I'm such an idiot. I thought they started calling it the clap like in the 70s. I thought it got the name the clap in some disco in the 70s.
I thought, did Richard Pryor invent that for one of his routines back in the day?
Exactly. I thought it was like a cast member from Eight Is Enough that got that started back in the day. Wasn't that like a Van Patten or somebody way back in the
medieval times? Because
medieval times.
You know what? We'll get Kirk on the show to talk about it one day, those medieval times.
We definitely do. We need to have Kirk on when we're both on. I've had Kirk on when you're off the show. We really do need to have Kirk on with both of us and we'll just lean into it.
This has a buy or sell question. Wait, that's not okay. Hold on. We'll do this one first, but it's not what I meant to go to.
Okay.
You get one. Anthony Hill becomes the next Derek Johnson or Colin Simmons becomes the next Sergio Kendall. That's an easy one for me, Gilly, because no offense to Sergio Kendall, but I don't speak of him on Derek Johnson terms. So if you're going to give me the next Derek Johnson.
Yeah, take it.
I don't even know what you would have to offer me for me to not take the next Derek Johnson.
Because remember, Gilly, he goes on to, not that this is college ball, but he goes on to be the leading tackler in the history of the Chiefs. Like he goes on to be a badass NFL player too. And yeah.
I think Derek Johnson is the best Texas defensive player I've ever seen with Earl Thomas was sensational and like a very small window. You mentioned Sergio, Brian. Texas had some ballers, but Derek Johnson is he's this generation or maybe the last two generations version of Tommy Nobis. There's just some guys, and it's like the Tommy Nobis fan club. They'll let you invite Derek Johnson to the meeting, but he's like the only guy in the last 60 years that gets that. So I'm going to say I'd take the next Derek Johnson, with all due respect to Sergio Kendall, who even I think Sergio Kendall would understand Derek Johnson's Derek Johnson. Here's the one that I meant to go to.
Okay.
Jared asked, buy or sell Antoine Kuseh, which, by the way, what a random name to draw out from the past. It's only been 20 plus years. Antoine Kuseh, who once upon a time was the state's #1 prospect in 1998, was better than both Brockermeyer brothers combined. I mean,
Jared. Now remember, it's Jared, Ketch. So Jared is very not random here. It sounds like he wants to do Waxahachie comparisons all day.
Is that what's happening here?
That's what's happening. He's the one that threw Justin McLemore out.
Because I was like, Antoine Kuseh is such a random shout.
It really is. I appreciate it, Jared, that's the next name. You went from Justin McLemore to Antoine Kuseh like that.
I will buy this, by the way.
Really?
Although, you know, Kuseh was so good in high school and then was very good in college, but never better than very good. I don't think he made all Big 12. He didn't play in the NFL.
Yeah. You remember the thing?
Still better than the Brockermeyers have done thus far in college, though.
Yeah. Remember the thing about Antoine, part of the thing that held him back that he really couldn't control, his damn shoulder always popped out. Always. They couldn't keep his shoulder in socket, literally. And it was one of those things that it controlled his career at Texas in a weird way. It was such a crazy thing. But you're right. He was an incredible badass coming out of high school.
Riggs back in the day.
Yeah, he would just have to slam it against filing cabinets and stuff. I remember sitting through Lethal Weapon 2 in the theater, and I still cringe on that scene. Like the way Mel Gibson sells that whole scene is terrifying. And then it comes back later in the movie, and oh my God, still makes me queasy.
Brandon asks, by the way, if you have a super chat, you go to the front of the line. We're kind of doing this randomly. There's no rhyme or reason, like in the order that we're taking the questions thus far today. Do we have another, and Brandon, I'm assuming you mean Texas. Do we have another freshman All-America this year? Maybe. I mean, Ryan Wingo seems like a guy that at least needs to be mentioned right now as a possibility.
Simmons?
Maybe. We're still too far away. Like, I feel like Simmons is like a kid that's at kindergarten right now. And, you know, he may advance through first, second, and third, and fourth grade pretty quickly, but he's still learning the trade to a certain extent. And, you know, we've talked about this. There's very clearly separation that's taking place in a battle between him and Trey Moore, the two of the newcomers, if you will. But Trey Moore is like a fifth-year senior or a fourth-year junior. I'm trying to remember. He redshirted and played just a couple of games in 2021 and then in 2022 and 2023. So he's got 2 seasons of eligibility. Yeah, so he'll be a fourth-year junior. Even though he comes from UTSA, college football is not new to him. So there's just an urgency that he's been able to acclimate himself to that we're waiting on Simmons. But, you know, this was one of the top 3 to 5 ranked classes in the country just a couple of months ago when you know, these things, the recruiting class for 2024 kind of was put to bed. You can go. Alex did this yesterday on the modcast, but you can kind of go through every single freshman on the roster right now, Chad. And other than Wingo, who's gotten a little bit of run with the 1s and is definitely playing with the 2s, you're not seeing a lot of true freshmen through 6 or 7 practices that are clearly on the 2 deep. So, you know, I think we'll have to wait a little bit. At this moment, the answer might be no. But the answer is not no because you don't have any freshmen who are good enough to be All-Americans. You've got a football program probably ranked in the top 5 going into the next season. And the roster's really stacked and deep. And, even as much as we've talked about at the running back position, Christian Clark and Jarrett Gibson and the early impact that they've made, but they're doing it with the third team offense. It's scout team stuff that oftentimes you're seeing those players, a little bit of maybe twos with Christian Clark, but it's probably too early to definitively say yes. But I wouldn't worry about it. This isn't a program that needs a true freshman to come in and just take the world by storm. So if it happens organically, then that player probably needs to be singled out. The days of 2022 where it was like Kelvin Banks, hey, meet your new teammates. And now go into the starting offensive huddle day one and play left tackle. Like, it's a little bit different over the course of 2024 versus the last two seasons and even further back than that.
Brandon, thank you for the chat. Lots of folks in the Specs chat right now. We'll get back to some more of those. Somebody's got an interesting update on how the show has gone so far. Real quick, though, let me tell you about the Deep Eddy Vodka Tasting Room. We got great spring weather going on right now. Get on out there to Dripping Springs when you get the chance. 8 different flavors of Deep Eddy vodka, all distilled 10 times, gluten-free, made in small batches. It's just such a great time out there. Take friends, take family, celebrating a birthday, or just cuz. Get on out to the Hill Country. Check it out. They were born back in 2010, named after that famous swimming hole, and they want you to just have a good time. The Crimson Creek Smokehouse Barbecue is right there on site. It's fantastic. You're going to have a great time. Again, it's Thursdays and Fridays, 11 to 7, Saturday, 11 to 5, Sunday, 12 to 5 at the Deep Eddy Vodka Tasting Room. There's your QR code. You can scan it, find out all kinds of stuff about what they've got going on out there. All right. So as I check the chat, if you just jumped in, this is Chris's review of the show so far. 12:01, we're taking your Longhorn questions. 12:15, here's the history of gonorrhea. Now, Chris, I would argue it didn't exactly happen that way, but when you say question and answer anything, sometimes it goes down weird roads. So we did get a little history of gonorrhea.
I really blame Kirk Bowles for this.
Right. It really is ultimately either Kirk Bowles or Cotton's fault, one of the two. Cotton made the Kirk Bowles joke. We decided to research it, and we found out that the clap goes all the way back to medieval times. So there you go.
Not gonorrhea, though, for the record, just the nickname, the clap, just the nickname, in case you guys think there's a pop quiz on any of this stuff a little bit later.
Ketch, we have a buy or sell for someone that has a bit of a stake in this one. Buy or sell on the porch. Sorrell wants to know 88 plays his way into the day one conversation.
Well, let's talk about what would have to happen for that to happen. He's got to have an unbelievable season. I mean, first and foremost, right? We're talking about, I don't know what the numbers look like, but he's got to be one of the best defensive linemen in the SEC this year. Mm-hmm. And I think from a productivity standpoint, what is it that NFL teams want from their defensive ends? They want guys that can get to the quarterback. So I'm going to say no unless Sorrell was like a double-digit sack guy. And at that point, all of his strengths and positives as a player will only be added to like the pass rush thing. They'll say, in addition to that, oh, he's really good against the run. And he's started a bunch of games, so he's well experienced. Like, there is a Barron Sorrell checklist that a lot of boxes get checked. The one that didn't, and Barry, otherwise known as On the Porch, I think he knows this as much as anybody because we had joked about it last year that, like, if he'd gotten to 10 sacks a year ago, Barry would probably be in the NFL draft getting ready right now. That didn't quite happen, but it didn't mean that Barron didn't play well. I keep bringing up that PFF stat where no defensive lineman in the Big 12 had more pressures than Barron did. Now he's got to convert those pressures into sacks. And if he can do that 8, 9, 10 times, I think 8 at a minimum, I think he could be. But I think, that's the last. Barry, watch The Last Dragon. Okay? I'm telling Chad he needs to watch that movie.
Here we
I
go.
bet Barry has seen The Last Dragon, in part because it was made by Barry Gordy, and that's like, they share the same name. It took The Last Dragon. It took him a little bit of time to get the glow. But once he got the go, he became the glow. He became the Shogun of Harlan. So that's what we're waiting on. We're waiting for Barron to get the glow and to become the Shogun of Athens, Georgia, or any of those SEC outposts. People quit texting me. Shit.
Jeez, people.
It doesn't help that I have the phone literally right next to the microphone.
Yeah.
So Barry, that's what I would say. He gets to 8-9 of those big ones this season. Then I think we'll start talking about that level of draft position.
Papa Sorrell, thank you for being out there today. We appreciate it. All right, Ketch, how about this one from Shook Ones? Buy or sell? You think Decorian Moore is better than Garrett Wilson coming out of high school?
I do. Buy.
Oh, okay.
And I loved Garrett Wilson. And look, Garrett Wilson became exactly what, when you rank Garrett Wilson as high as I had Garrett Wilson ranked, you expect that's what he's supposed to be as a first-round draft pick. That's what he was. I think Decorian Moore is just faster than Garrett. So I might say that Garrett is a little more well-rounded as a receiver at this point, although I don't really think that's a slam at Decorian. Like, that's what made Garrett Wilson pretty spectacular, both certainly in high school, as he just looked like a future NFL receiver. He's not as explosive as Decorian Moore. He's just not. I mean, Decorian Moore looks like what it would look like if you put like a jetpack on Garrett Wilson. It doesn't mean that I think Decorian Moore is automatically just going to be leaps and bounds better than Garrett Wilson overall as a player. But if you're ranking these things in athleticism and speed and upside matter most, then yeah, I would rank Moore slightly ahead of Garrett Wilson.
Shook Ones, we appreciate that. Remember, if you want to send us a super chat, it will go right to the top of the list. Ketch, before we get back to some other chats, some good stuff coming in, why don't you tell the folks about My Perfect Franchise and what Andy can do for them?
Well, look, once upon a time, I probably could have used myperfectfranchise.net and Andy, right? I'm starting orangebloods.com. It's a long time ago, but I made mistakes, still make mistakes, and things that I can, have a checklist to know the things to do and the things not to do when starting a new business. Andy can help with. He can help you get off the ground and get started. He can help you take various steps along the way. The bottom line is he can help you do the things that you need to do to be doing the things that you need to do better and easier. And he can be like a fairy godfather in a lot of ways. Just reach out to him. Text him, call him at 404-973-9901 or email him at andy@myperfectfranchise.net. The bottom line is starting your own business, starting your own career, living the dream, being your own boss. It sounds good on paper. It's a little trickier in execution, and that's what Andy's there for. So many success stories. You can be the next one. Just reach out to Andy today.
There you go. Best advice. Hire a handsome Aggie. Done. All right. Back to the chat, Ketch.
He told me that, by the way.
He did, right? Exactly. Yeah, that's it.
Are you sure?
Andy, thank you. Wherever you are out there today, we appreciate the advice. Ketch, how about this one? Does Nyblack get drafted higher than Lavelle Pinkney? I just looked it up to double check. 4th round for Lavelle Pinkney.
I'm going to sell. I need to see a little bit, you know what I mean? Like, Nyblack's not there yet. I'm completely okay with, in 6 months from now, people going, ha, you thought he wasn't going to go higher in the 4th round. I'll just say, oh, my bad. But, I think that there's a little bit of got to see him do it, at least a little more than that one catch against Texas last season. Technically, Nyblack still got to get ahead of Juan Davis. I'm curious to see what the target distribution looks like between Gunnar Helm and Nyblack. I don't know. I'm going to say sell for now, in part because You know, we know that Jatavion Sanders is a badass on the football field. Tests a little poorly. And now I don't know that he's going to go in the second round, which seemed like such a certainty just a couple of months ago. So, you know, I'm just going to be a little patient with Niblack.
Tata, we appreciate that chat. How about this one, Ketch, on the recruiting front from Shook Ones? Ketch, Kalik Lockett and Decorian Moore needs to happen. Tell me it is.
I mean, sure, it is. You feel better?
I think Shook Ones wanted you to actually believe it, though.
It can happen. And I think if I had to, I don't know how to handicap that. Because the thing is, if I said Decorian Moore was 60-40 to end up at Texas, which would make Texas the favorite, even though he's committed to LSU. But then I were to say Kalik Lockett's 50-50. Well, then the odds of those two things happening statistically is 30%. Because you're taking 0.6 and multiplying it by 0.5 and you end up with 0.3. So statistically, the math says probably no, or more likely to be no than yes for both. I also wonder, do both of those guys want to play on the same team? You know, Texas has a reputation right now that it's trying to kind of defeat them. They don't play freshmen after Jonte Cook from a year ago. They may play Ryan Moore, but will they play two true freshmen at the same time? So I do agree it needs to happen. I'll tell you, yeah, it could happen. Kalik Lockett in Texas has been a little bit of a slow burn, but it seems by the day to get a little bit better. So I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, Shook. I don't want to be that guy that you come to and say, tell me it's going to happen. And then I just tell you that everything's going to happen. Sure, you're going to win the lottery. Like, I don't want to be that guy that you look at me and you're like, he's a little bit like one of those ministers on TV telling me that everything I want's going to happen. Just send him money. I don't want to be that guy. So I'm going to say it definitely is a possibility. But I don't want to just pander to the audience either.
Shook Ones, I can also tell you this, if I'm not mistaken, those two guys are on the list for this weekend and the big recruiting weekend Texas has got going on. This afternoon at 4, Jason Sukamel is going to run through that whole list for you of all the guys coming in for this big April 6th weekend. Decorian Moore, the stud receiver out of Duncanville, Kalik Lockett, the stud receiver out of Saxe. They are both going to be a part of things. We'll give you the rest of that list later on. So thank you for that preview, Shook Ones. I appreciate that opportunity. And thank you to Alan, just reminding everybody to smash the like button. Looking for 100 likes. Can you see the likes right now, Ketch? Are we to 100? Have we gotten there?
I'm not looking.
Okay.
I'm writing a buy or sell question involving The Rock.
Well, you know what? I don't want to interrupt you. Please, feel free. Smash the like button. I agree. Ketch is going to finish up some buy or sell about The Rock. While he does that, let's take a breath and let you hear from Specs. Lisa, tell them about it.
You're needing Specs same-day delivery can save the day with our Specs app or online shopping. From world-class wines to hard-to-find spirits and craft beers to gourmet foods, delicious snacks, and spectacular sweets. It's Specs. Cheers to savings.
Yes, indeed. Final Four coming up this weekend. Women's Final Four hits on Friday.
It's weird, isn't it? That they goes. I know that they want to have the match done so that it's staggered around the men, but you made Caitlin Clark and UConn play on Monday night, and now they get only 4 days, not even 4 days rest. They get 3 days rest. That includes travel. I don't know. It just seems, I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying it's a little weird that they're playing so soon.
It is weird, but I've always thought that once the men's championship is done and one shining moment has happened, you probably don't need any other college basketball. I do like the idea of doing stagger that and go Final Four, Final Four, championship. I like them doing that because otherwise the women's game would get kind of lost And if there's one thing this women's tournament doesn't need to do, it's get
What
off.
this year, though?
Because it's awesome. No, it's awesome.
Caitlin Clark, if they played that game a week from Friday at like 4 a.m., and if Caitlin Clark were in the game, I don't think it would matter. I think it is.
Yeah,
we've entered a rare era. She's so much bigger than any star on the men's side in college basketball right now.
Oh, yeah.
That I think if you said she's 3 or 4 times bigger than any star in college basketball on the men's side, I actually think that might be underselling it.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of
the star on the men's side, the big tall dude from Purdue, Zach Eddy or whatever his name is.
Eddy I think I was trying to think as you're saying that, is there somebody like what's the last guy, the last men's college basketball player that had that much run, that much attention? Is it Zion?
Yeah, I mean, you always do it by the draft, right? So you'd maybe say Zion.
Maybe it's that guy. I mean, obviously, like Steph made his name in the tournament. We became aware of him because of the tournament, and then he goes on to be Steph. But it's a little different. We weren't following Davidson men's games throughout regular season.
They were putting random Iowa games on CBS main network.
Yeah, this
year on Sundays. And I found myself watching random Iowa, Nebraska games.
Yeah.
What on earth could make me watch that, Caitlin Clark?
Yeah.
So it's strange how big of a star she is. I don't think none of the UConn teams, they had all-time great players. But none of them ever felt like I gotta watch no matter when the game is. I got to watch because I got to watch her. And that she never seems to disappoint. I wondered against LSU, because LSU's so long and athletic. I wondered, is she going to have like a 8 for 25 game where maybe she finishes with like 17 points, but LSU beats their brains in kind of like they did a year ago? No, 41, 12, and 7. The biggest nitpick on Caitlin Clark is you couldn't get 3 more rebounds for a triple-double. What's up with that? She's freaky, man. I'm curious to see what we do when she goes to the WNBA. Can she maintain any kind of level of this where she's such a big star that she's on the cover of Wheaties boxes and she just transcends the sport somewhat? We've never seen anything quite like her.
Here's a very strange chat that just popped in from Teta. Buy or sell. Caitlin Clark is not only talented, but pretty fine. I would start over and have kids with her. That is the strangest buy or sell I've ever seen. Strange.
If I was in college, I would absolutely date Caitlin Clark. But she'd be taller than me, and she'd have to be okay with dating an average-heighted man.
Yeah, that's true. I had a girl turn me down on that years ago.
I once dated a swimmer from Texas.
Yeah.
He was like 6'1". And, I enjoyed it.
Yeah.
But I was like 5'10", 5'10 and a half. So, she was always wearing like flats as shoes. And women like to wear heels. They like to dress up. So, I would totally date Caitlin Clark, but like she might not have anything to do with me.
Teta, we appreciate that chat. It was very strange, but
that's what we do. We're strange.
That's kind of what it is. We got a couple super chats that came in. I want to make sure we get to those. Let's start with this one. It's Jordan, $4.99 super chat. Player/positions that y'all are most interested / excited to watch this season. Jordan, not even a hesitation. Receiver. Not even a hesitation from me. Receivers, easily my favorite this year.
I'll go quarterback because it's not an insignificant thing that the expectations for Quinn Ewers is to put up the best statistical quarterback season in the history of Texas football. I mean, if it happens, we'll be talking about – think about how much we talk about Colt McCoy, whose best season was 16 years ago.
Mm.
We talk about it like it was yesterday. Oh, you did it yesterday. You were like, Colt McCoy, that was like the 72% season or the 70, it stands the test of time. That's not who Quinn Ewers has been so far. He's been very good, but he hasn't been, in 16 years, we'll still be talking about his completion percentage. So I'll say quarterback and Quinn, and obviously Arch mixed in as well, because if Quinn were to miss a game or two, the level of hype and intensity around the coverage of Arch Manning would be something that we haven't seen since Chris Sims. And I'm convinced that that's been so long ago that a lot of you that watch this show have no idea what that was like. None. You have no idea what it was like when Phil Sims' son played at Texas for a couple of years and what an event every game was. And if he just played slightly poor, how it dominated the discussion. So quarterback for me, I know that's a pretty easy way to go, but I think I've explained it pretty well.
Jordan, we appreciate the super chat. Oscar, we also appreciate that super chat. $4.99. What's the best case scenario for this team with no portal upgrades at D tackle? Oscar, off the top of my head, I would say Collins and Broughton play well enough to get NFL attention.
I mean, he's asking for the best case scenario for the team. I'll say Final Four. Right? Because he's asking not about the players. He's asking for what's the best case scenario for this team if it goes into the season with who they have at D tackle.
With no upgrade. I see. Yeah, I guess so. I mean, that would make that's the playoff. I got to think of the new version.
I mean, best case scenario, I would guess, would be national championship game.
Right. You could still win it all. And maybe you combine that with what I said. The best case scenario would be, again, Collins and Broughton are so good that you look back and go, oh, well, you didn't need anybody from Michigan. That those two guys are such badasses. And then the other guys that are filling in behind them do a good enough job that it's not a liability. That's your best case.
It's funny because I was watching Joel Klatt do a video on Twitter, and he might have been doing it for Fox or whomever, but I saw it on Twitter. And he was talking about how dominant Byron Murphy was, that it was the Texas defense that was really responsible for getting Texas elevated to the place that it did. And it was just all I could think about was this time 12 months ago, nobody was talking about Byron Murphy like that. That first round guy, but also so dominant on the field that he was the thing that lifted and elevated the program. A lot of people were excited because T'Vondre Sweat was coming back for another season. And he'd been a really good player, but not great player the season before. And there was optimism around Murphy, but he always had felt like a guy that you were still waiting. We talked about Barron, Sorrell earlier, converting pressures into sacks. That was a little bit like Byron Murphy, where it felt like, okay, he's doing a lot of little things correctly. And so you know why he plays as much as he does, but you're waiting for the productivity to show up where you say that guy's one of the best players in college football. I think about that when I think about Alfred Collins and Vernon Broughton and some of these players that haven't yet done it, and yet they're waiting on them. Truth be told, 12 months ago, we were still waiting on T'Vondre Sweat and Byron Murphy. And it's crazy that like 6 months later, that seemed crazy. That once the light switch really came on, Chad, and those guys were really performing well, it was like all those conversations that we had previously seemed so silly, right? Oh, what if Murphy and Sweat are like one of the top 3 defensive tackle pairings in the Big 12? Like we were having conversations like that, let alone like what if they're the second and third defensive tackle or the first and the third or whatever taken in the draft. So I've tried to do a better job, Oscar, with being defiant about opinions on players, because none of us could have you're lying if you're like, no, I saw Sweat and Murphy both being All-Americans last year. I predicted it. I mean, okay, Show me some of your other predictions, though, because that wasn't a thought that I saw echoed time and time again in the preseason. There was a lot of hope, but if we've been, when we were talking about if the over and under is 9.5, or you're going 9, or you're going 10, I don't remember many people saying, well, they're going to have the best defensive tackle duo in the country. So what are we talking about? Of course it's 10. That just didn't happen a whole lot.
Oscar, we appreciate the super chat. It's Q&A for Ketch today. Anything you want to know Longhorn-wise or other things, maybe history of the clap or whatever, you can throw it in. And if you go super chat, we'll get it right to the top of the list. Real quick, this may be on the top of your list. Breathing, should be. Sinus and snoring specialist. Are you breathing like you need to be? Are you sleeping like you need to be? Is it that time of year where maybe you're going for yearly physicals and you're getting stuff checked out? Well, if it's spring cleaning time, maybe you need to clean out those sinuses. Maybe you need to clean out the allergies. They can get rid of your allergies for good. They can get rid of your snoring, sleep apnea. You've seen these commercials during the tournament for Inspire. Go ask them about it. Find out. It's one of the latest things in ear, nose, and throat, and they've got it all at Sinus and Snoring Specialists. Not everybody's story is the same. It's not all cookie cutter with them. They just want to get you feeling better and sleeping better. There's your QR code. You can go 601-0303. You can go online to sinussnoringent.com as well and start checking it out that way. Sinus and Snoring Specialists, feel clear, rested, and healthy. Final Four coming up this weekend. A lot of stuff rolling in the chat. In fact, Ketch, somebody asked earlier in the chat about how many Michigan D linemen are we taking when the spring portal opens
of them
up.
If you can.
Man, this is going to be – that really is kind of the subplot as we get towards April 15th, which I guess as we sit here today on the 3rd, we're 12 days away from the opening. And when everybody –
Texas fans are going to be so disappointed if the portal window comes and goes and there are no Michigan starting defensive linemen.
Yeah. Right. That is going to break some hearts. You're right. If we find out all those guys are sticking. But as you pointed out, the timing of everything with Harbaugh kind of allowed for that to happen. And then the new staff has gotten a chance to get in there and try to stabilize. And like somebody chatted us at a show this early this week, or maybe it was last week, an interesting piece of logic, which is if I'm a badass Michigan D lineman, Michigan gets dudes drafted all the time. Why wouldn't I just hang out in Michigan? Like,
is it made more complicated that you're playing Texas on the schedule? I guess for some guys, they just wouldn't care.
Right.
But a lot of times when a guy transfers, I think, well, I'm not going to play against you. Like there's a code. A man has to have a code. In the college transfer portal, is it breaking code to play someone on the schedule? We've seen some guys just go to like hated rivals, and you're like, ugh, okay.
Yeah. Like who's the guy from Oklahoma State that just did Ford? Was it Trace Ford? Was that his name? Went to Oklahoma. Couldn't believe it. Still can't believe it. I still can't believe
we've talked about there have been no Aggie Longhorn switches that somehow I'm surprised that hasn't happened.
Right.
But I could easily understand why it would, especially before. Well, I think former Aggie players wouldn't want to go to the Big 12. But if you were before this year, if you were a Longhorn player and you were leaving and you had a spot to go play in the SEC, maybe you would.
Yeah.
But we've not seen, I think, the dreaded Texas 8. Although there will be Texas fans that'll say, you know who the first one will be? Landon Rink. Commits to the Aggies, and once he proves that he's good enough to play for the Longhorns, he'll be a Longhorn. I don't know about that, but yeah, I guess it could happen.
Yeah, Landon Rink became the first defensive lineman in A&M's 25 class today, right? That happened this morning. He announced that. Garrison, we appreciate that chat. One more here, just cleaning up some chats. Catch from Hunter. Just curious, have either of you ever seen a high school player that you thought could make an impact on an NFL roster at 18, or is that just impossible in football? I would assume, Ketch, you're going to tell them it's not impossible.
I think.
You ever seen somebody at 18 and known that was the case?
Just one. Adrian Peterson.
Mm.
That Adrian Peterson, as a freshman in college, could have played running back in the NFL. But it's a pretty short list. Like, I certainly know quarterbacks. I don't think I think that about wide receivers. Did I think Xavier Worthy? I thought Xavier Worthy, even Roy Williams just felt so raw. I don't really never saw Randy Moss like really as a freshman. I'll lean on Adrian Peterson. He's the guy that's the easy answer for me. And if you'll remember, when Adrian was a freshman in college, he talked about he thought he was good enough to go straight to the NFL, and he kind of talked about the way the draft rules worked.
Yep.
And that he had to wait 3 seasons before he could go pro, but he thought he was good enough to do so. I 1000% agree with Adrian Peterson from back in the day. He's the one guy that truly comes to mind.
Hunter, we appreciate that chat. Lots of good chats coming in. Damn near 400 folks in the Specs chat right now. We got buy or sell coming up here right around the top of the hour. Also want to remind you, we've had our bracket contest going on, and the winner of that Orange Bloods bracket contest is getting a 65-inch TV from Audio Visual Consultations. This is the place to set up that TV you've always wanted. Maybe you just need to get a little bit bigger screen. That's what you're looking for. You're jealous of your neighbor, or maybe you're jealous of the kind of screen I saw last weekend. It was like 75 inches, and I'm like, man, that's 15 whole inches bigger than my big TV. If you had that feeling, AV Consultations can get you upgraded, and they can get a better deal on the TV than you can. So let them handle all details. The TV, the cords, the speakers, the chairs, the badass furniture, whatever it is you want, they can get it all for you. They'll go stem to stern and make sure you're satisfied. AV Consultations has been doing it since 1988. Locally owned and operated. So check them out. AV Consultations, 255-8678. They even still believe in phone calls. 255, I know, 255-8678 or avconsultations.com. They'll talk to you on the phone and everything. Set all kinds of stuff up.
Chad, if it makes you feel any better, I do have my buy or sell questions in place. I also have the answer to the number of likes that we have on the video.
All right, hit it.
Lawrence Taylor right now. So,
okay.
So people, come on now.
Let's go. Let's get it up. Let's get that number up.
Like the video. Smash it.
Yep. Remember, Longhorn fans, there's nothing that upsets an Aggie fan more than a Longhorn fan clicking on a thumbs up emblem. Nothing. Not one thing. It really drives them crazy. That's why you need to do it. We still can't get them to change it to a hook 'em horns emoji. We're sorry. Ketch, real quick, personal question for me. Teta wants to know, Chad, do you remember in 1992, Waxahachie 28, A&M Consolidated 24 in the 4A ship? Do I remember it? Do I remember the Alamo Dome? The Alamo Dome. Do I remember the Astrodome? Obviously, I do. And beating A&M Consolidated and Jeff Watson? Yes, I do. Do I remember Lamont Moore going into the end zone? Yes, I do. Do I remember Sammy Overton? And do I remember the rest of that incredible team? Yes, I do. I was there, and we celebrated at Ponchos. Raise the flag. The Indians are the champions.
Someone asked a Monte Rager question.
Ooh, Monte was on that team too.
Do you know what I remember about Monte Rager?
What's that?
This would have been. Let me double check. Let me see. Let me click on his Wikipedia page.
Monte
He was at
Rager.
Watson. He went. When did he? Do you remember what his year? So I was.
He would have been a junior on the championship team, and he was there the next year when they lost to Stephenville, and then
would have either been like 94 or 95 when he was a recruit.
Okay.
And I can remember being at the student union, like as a freshman at Texas, and I was working in the SID office, and one of our daily chores was to take clippings of guys and like make a scrapbook out of their recruitments. So I've been doing this for Monte Rager, and I remember reading maybe like in the Statesman that Rager had committed to Texas Tech. It's funny because it was so long ago that I was getting my recruiting information from the newspaper.
Mm-hmm.
Like that stopped a long time ago.
Yeah.
But what I remember is I remember reading it in the newspaper. It actually wasn't the Union. I was outside like Dobie Mall because I can remember like looking at it on the street corner. And I remember how many guys is Texas Tech beating out Texas for? And I think Monte Rager was really the answer to that trivia question up until this past year, where, they get the big badass 5-star wide receiver.
Yep.
And I think between Monte Rager in the mid-90s from Waxahachie all the way up till this past year, I don't think it had ever happened.
Wow. So
because I remember when Monte Rager doing it and thinking, wow, he really chose Texas Tech over Texas. And then, trust me, it didn't happen during the Mac Brown years. Like, that just didn't happen. So, kind of crazy. Anyway, that's what I think of when I think of a young Monte Rager. You think of state championships at the Hatch.
Yes.
I think of rare recruiting head-to-head win over Texas.
It's interesting. So Monte Rager and Micah Hudson end up being the bookends to that.
They are. They're bookends.
Yeah, that is wild. Shout out to Monte and all those guys from that championship team. Thank you. Shout out to all of you for all the great chats today in the Specs chat. There is, you know what? I found a buy or sell I don't want to mess with. I like this one. Uncommon Cravings. Buy or sell. Texas beats OU this year.
I'm going to say buy. Yeah, they better. They better.
Yeah, I'll buy that. I will buy that. Now this, I don't know what this mess is. Text guy? What? Huh? Stop.
Well, buy.
I don't even know why you would type that. That's just no reason.
That kind of goes unsaid around here. We
right.
Make us talk about it.
Yeah, right. There can be discussions, but come on. All right. Anything else we need to hit, Catch, before we buy or sell?
No, we can do buy or sell. I'll go first today if you want me to.
Absolutely. Go right ahead.
And I actually have all 5 questions ready to go.
Okay.
As opposed to yesterday when I had 4 or 5, and then I just couldn't decide on the 5th question. The 5th question is going to be birthday boy related.
Excellent.
Buy or sell number 1. The Ryan Wingo hype is a bit overplayed and it won't be maintained.
Right now I'm going to say buy. And a major part of that's going to be the injection of Silas Bolden into the conversation, the development of everybody else. Not about Wingo. I'm not saying Wingo's going to be bad, but I'm saying it might, maybe a little overcooked. And we need to keep our eyes on that Jonte Cook number from last year. 8 catches is that number. Does Wingo get to there? And then we can have a discussion after that.
He better. I'm just saying it out loud.
No, I agree with you.
I don't know what that number is, but it needs to be double digits.
I think it needs to be a dozen for sure. I agree with you.
Buy or sell number 2, the Stephon Diggs trade for the Texans is solid, but maybe not more than that.
Sell. As a Cowboys fan, I'm highly concerned about what the other in-state team is doing here. And they've always had a bunch of 2s to me at receiver, at running back, and it just feels like now they're starting to inject 1s into that discussion where guys like Dell and Collins can now slot to where they're supposed to be. And I think
I don't think Diggs is a 1 anymore.
Yeah, I do. And I think and even if he's not, and it's like a 1A, 1B, I mean, he's at least that to me. I think it's a dangerous situation, so I'm selling.
In 6 of his last 9 games last year, he didn't break 10 yards per catch. Like, I don't know what was happening in that Buffalo offense down the stretch. Maybe, quite frankly, Chance would have a better idea. And look, I'm going to be on with you guys tonight on the Outsiders. Maybe we can revisit this a little bit. I dig Stephon Diggs, no pun intended. Like, I like him. I've enjoyed rooting for him. He crossed the age of 30 last year, had a weird back end of the season, bad playoff. He averaged like 7.3 yards a catch in 2 playoff games last year. And I don't know what happened. I don't want to say like he's glue factory material because I think that's too strong. And I think it's a low risk trade for the Texans. But there's a part of me that is wondering, do the Bills know something that they feel like they got over based on what happened at the end of the year? We'll see. That trade makes the Texans better. I don't know how it doesn't, but I wonder if Diggs won't be the B or the 2, and one of those guys already on the team will end up being the 1, but Diggs allows for a 1 to more easily to be the 1 because you do have to account for Stephon Diggs. Buy or sell number 3. Angel Reese announced her decision to go to the WNBA via Vogue magazine. That's pretty baller.
I will buy. When you have the presence and the attitude and the look that Angel Reese does, that makes sense. That sounds good. If you're one of those players that like never wears makeup and never seems to care about your hair on the court, no. But when you're Angel Reese and it feels like the entire look has been dealt with, every detail is considered, then yeah, that's pretty cool. I like it. Bye.
If Quinn Ewers announces via GQ next year,
right,
I'm sticking with that's pretty baller.
Yes, especially if he does it without his shirt on and like flexing with the, with the 6-pack.
Or they've got him in like platforms getting ready for like Paris Fashion Week.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, regardless, it's not Sports Illustrated. It's a different level of
that's cool.
Like flashing your identity.
Right.
Buy or sell number 4. I mentioned this one to you earlier.
Mm-hmm.
WrestleMania this weekend. The Rock has you most excited out of everything for WrestleMania this weekend.
Let's see. Let me go over it all in my head. The Rock has you most excited about WrestleMania right now. I am a wrestling head, so I'm going to sell. The thing that has me most excited is just how they are going to play off this thing on Sunday. And I'm most excited to see if Roman Reigns is really about putting somebody over in a main event at WrestleMania, or if this company really is just about it's Roman Reigns and that's it. That is what I'm most excited to see. Rock's going to be awesome. Look, anytime those older guys are hanging, and I know they can still hang, that's great. The Rock's in incredible shape. Saturday night's going to be fun. I kind of hope they do a little Rock turns on Roman, but that's a whole nother discussion. But I'm most excited about how it ends on Sunday because I am a bit of a wrestling nerd.
All right. And finally, buy or sell number 5. On Eddie Murphy's 62nd birthday, you think his best movie has to be among the trio of Beverly Hills Cop, Trading Places, or Coming to America?
Eddie Murphy, best movie that is among the group.
It has to be one of those 3 if you give an answer.
Coming to America. Man.
Not Trading Places, not what was the one where he did the impressions and everything? Dr. Dolittle.
Yeah, the Nutty Professor and stuff.
Yeah, the Nutty Professor, not the Nutty Professor. It has to be Beverly Hills Cop, Trading Places, or Coming to America.
Now, the good thing for this particular buy or sell is I have seen all 3 of these movies. I have not seen like Dolomite Is My Name and some of the others that people might talk about.
It's actually really good.
I've heard Dolomite's really good, so I have not seen that, know that going into this answer, but I'm going to buy, and I feel like for me, it would be a competition. If I'm just telling somebody, hey, if you've never seen Eddie Murphy in a movie, go watch blank or blank. I think I'd go Beverly Hills Cop or Coming to America. And then maybe Trading Places might fall into kind of a bronze medal category. But I think it might be one of those 2 for me.
I think Trading Places is my favorite Eddie Murphy movie. But I think the way you said it is correct. That if the aliens came down from Mars and said, what Eddie Murphy movie do we need to watch? We've heard about this guy.
Mm-hmm.
I think it has to be either Beverly Hills Cop or Coming to America. Like, if you're trying to sell the Eddie Murphy experience, those are the 2 movies.
Yeah, because if you just want to show off him being funny, it's Beverly Hills Cop. But if you want to show off the versatility of him being funny, it's Coming to America.
He's not allowed to upstage Aykroyd in Trading Places. They're very much even on the marquee, whereas you're getting full-on Eddie Murphy experience with Beverly Hills Cop or coming to America.
Yeah, that's fair. That's
All right.
fair. All right, there it is. Here we go. And as you'll see, great minds do think alike on some of the buy or sells today. But we'll start here, Ketch. Buy or sell number one. You saw enough last night to know that Trey Johnson will be very good for Texas basketball.
Buy, and the fact that like he took the last shot in the game, he didn't make it, but he took the last shot. And to me, that says a lot on a team full of McDonald All-Americans where it was like 88-86, 3 seconds to go in the game. He wanted the ball. He took the shot. That's something that I think this team loses that with Max Asmus gone. That say what you want to about whatever Asmus was, and I know you get down towards the edge of the season and it felt like he got somewhat exposed a little bit, but he was an alpha that more times than not in close games was the shot taker and maker for Texas. Losing him and Dessou from this team, somebody's got to be a guy that will take the shot, that has the mentality to take the big shot. That's what stood out to me about Trey Johnson. He can sling it from the outside, but that of all the guys in that arena, he was the one that took the most important shot of the entire night. That'll, I think, serve this Texas hoops team pretty well going into the next season.
It was a sweet stroke, man. He's fun to watch. 17 points, including 5 3-pointers, in case you missed Trey Johnson last night. Sticking with basketball, Ketch, buy or sell number two. The USC basketball coach going to SMU shocked you.
Sell. Because SMU's an ACC school now. And that's just the thing that we've got to wrap our brain around, that guy's going from coaching in a conference in the Pac-12 that is a major conference, yeah, but like, I don't know, it just feels like West Coast basketball hasn't been the thing lately. That he goes to Dallas, he gets all of the Texas infrastructure advantages that just, the city of Dallas by itself as a recruiting hotbed, and we'll be playing Duke in North Carolina, at least for a little while. Florida State and Clemson, I'm going to say it made me, I did the rock eyebrow thing, right? Like I was like, huh? But then like 2 seconds later, I was like, no, it's new, but it does actually make a lot of sense. I think it explains why SMU bought its way into the ACC. That from a perception and from are they in the cool kids club or not? Mm-hmm. They are. This move right here is an example of what it allows for.
Yeah, it was interesting. And Infield did say yes, of course. Them being in the ACC is a big part of that decision. Ketch, back to football. Buy or sell number three. Texas will beat Michigan at the Big House and be 5-0 headed to Dallas.
Buy.
Yeah, there we go.
I'm lukewarm on the buy, but I'll go with a buy nonetheless.
By the way, 150 days till the first game today. 17 games. I still don't
know who's quarterbacking Michigan
until the spring game. Yeah, again. I think Texas has every chance to go in there and win because of everything that they're trying to reset in Michigan. It's
a little bit like the question of if you're a Texas women's basketball fan, should you be disappointed that the team only got to the Elite Eight? And the answer has to be yes, because even without Rory Harmon, they got the 1 seed. Mm-hmm. And literally, kind of by definition, if you're the 1 seed in one side of the bracket and you don't get to the Final Four, it feels like you left a little something out there that you didn't achieve. I feel the same way about if one team has a quarterback that the expectations are he's about to have the best season that any quarterback in a program's history, and I don't know who the other team's quarterback is, kind of by definition, I'm supposed to take the team with the badass quarterback.
Yeah, that's fair. All right, Ketch, here we go to the Houston story. Buy or sell number 4. The Diggs to Houston story should put everyone on notice. You think it's worth 2 more wins for the Texans?
Now I feel bad for giving my take in your question because I didn't know if there was going to be a Diggs question. So I wanted to get a Diggs thought out there.
Right.
I'll sell. I don't think it means the Texans might go up 2 more wins this year, but I don't know that it's the Diggs
But not because of him.
Not because of him.
Okay.
But I think he makes the Texans better. Don't give that dude a new contract, by the way, Houston. Like, see him first.
Is he really already 30 years old?
Yeah.
Is that true?
Yes.
God, we're old. Man.
So, like, I know that's a very arbitrary number. There's just something. I'm not even talking about the drop pass versus the Chiefs in the playoff game that hurt. As Chance. I'm just talking about, I remember I almost made a trade for Stephon Diggs in fantasy, Chad.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, get Stephon Diggs. And he's like my number 2 or number 3 receiver. And I'm gonna win the fantasy championship. And in the end, I wasn't able to pull the Diggs trade off. But I ended up going through the rest of the season, watching him every week through the prism of what if I had traded for Stephon Diggs? And every week I was like, thank God I didn't trade for Stephon Diggs, because there were, I think I pulled it up. Maybe I don't have it up on my computer anymore, but there was a moment in like the final 10 games where about half of them, he had less than 30 yards receiving. And I was like, he's a number 1 receiver with Josh Allen. What's going on with Diggs that you can't say that the quarterback, and they were playing well as a team. The Bills finished the season on roaring, but it wasn't because of Diggs. So I don't know. I think it's got a big sticker value on it. The headline is Texans get Stephon Diggs. And when you mentioned it to me this morning, I was like, oh, wow. And then I just started thinking about it a little bit more. And I was like, what are they getting? I don't know that I know. So We'll see.
I'm excited about your reaction because you've totally calmed me down. As a Cowboys fan, I was flipping out. Now you got me totally calmed down.
They do still have C.J. Stroud, though.
Yeah, interesting stat comparison, Ketch. Diggs had 107 catches last year. Nico Collins had 80. And on 27 fewer catches, Collins ended up with more yards and a better yards per catch than Diggs.
And the thing is, Stephon.
And the same number of touchdowns, by the way. Both had 8 touchdowns.
But Diggs only had 1 in his last 10 games.
Wow. Okay.
So, when you look at the stats, and here I'll go through it real quick, because I had it
hit him hard.
What's that?
I said that birthday must have hit him hard.
I don't know when it happened, but I know he turned 30. His birthday's in November. Yes. So look, he turned 30 on November 29th. Okay. Let me give you the game log after he turned 30.
All right.
He played Kansas City and he had 11 targets, 4 for 24. The next week he plays Dallas, and they beat Dallas 31-10.
Yes.
But he only caught 4 for 48 in that game. No touchdowns. Then he plays the Chargers, and he catches 5 for 29. Then he plays New England, and he catches 4 for 26. Then he plays the Dolphins last game of the year, 7 for 87. That's what you're expecting from your big dog, $15 million a year type of wide receiver. But then he goes into the playoffs, and against Pittsburgh, he catches 7 passes for 52 yards, 7.4 per catch. And then against Kansas City in a 27-24 loss, he got 3 passes for 21 yards. So once he turned 30, yardage-wise, 24, 48, 29, 26, 87, 52, 21. Only 1 game over 50 yards once he turned 30 out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games.
Man. All right.
I don't mean to be the expert on Stephon Diggs. I'm just telling you, I almost traded for him in fantasy. Believe me, I noticed.
Yeah. Houston fans, I might have told you to be excited, but maybe not.
And I'm not saying don't be excited. I'm just saying once he turned 30 last year, I know why the Bills – if you want to know why the Bills traded him, I just told you.
Yeah. We'll get into more of that conversation tonight on The Outsiders, as Ketch mentioned, with Chance Mock, who's a Bills fan. I know he's got a lot of thoughts on it. That's tonight at 8:30. We'll set that up for you here in a second. Let's finish it out. And yes, great minds think alike on Eddie Murphy's birthday. Buy or sell number 5 on Eddie's birthday. Your Mount Rushmore of Eddie movies includes Beverly Hills Cop and Trading Places.
Absolute buy. I would obviously add Coming to America to that. I think the 4th movie on a Mount Rushmore for Eddie is really interesting because I'm not a Dr. Dolittle or what's the other one?
Nutty Professor.
I'm not that's not my jam.
Like the original Nutty Professor is the one that would get all the love, the big ensemble at the table and Cletus and that whole thing.
And then for a lot of young people who grew up right when that movie came out, that's probably the movie that he's synonymous with. I might go Trading Places as 4.
Yeah, I might do that too. Or The Golden Child. I mean, obviously.
I love The Golden Child, but it's not Trading Places. I might go stand-up comedy Raw as well. Like, I would at least give it some consideration.
Well, if you can, I was doing separate. I think it's I don't know. You can do it both ways. If you're going to include the concert movies, like if you're going to consider stand-up movies,
it's a movie.
If you consider that a movie, then I think Delirious and Raw both have to be in. And then you got to kick a movie out.
What was the line? Let me hit him with my ding ding or whatever it was.
Yeah, right. Remember? Like if you really do consider that, because that that gets filed under a concert movie. That is the same thing as the Taylor Swift Eras movie, technically, in terms
also shout out to Harlem Nights
of what it is. Yeah, see, that's where like there's certain Eddie movies a lot of people love that I wouldn't put on a Mount Rushmore. I wouldn't put Harlem Nights on a Mount Rushmore. I know a lot of people that like Life. I would not put that on a Mount Rushmore of Eddie Murphy movies.
Love Life.
This is one that maybe it's just me. I would put Boomerang on a Mount Rushmore before I would put either Life or Harlem Nights. That's just me.
I might do that as well.
In terms of,
But it's hard because the finality of that's the 4th choice.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
And I feel like there's about 10 options that you could at least, I actually kind of dig Vampires in Harlem. Like
Vampire in Brooklyn. I've never seen that.
Vampire in Brooklyn. That's right. That one.
Well, let me ask you.
I like that more than the others, but I think it's an underrated one.
For some reason, I have never seen either of the 48 Hours movies. Would you tell me 48 Hours, the first one, is that good? Is it Mount Rushmore, Eddie Murphy good?
Yeah, like I said, I think that would be my 4th pick.
48 Hours?
Yeah, it'd be up there.
Oh, my bad. Okay, I didn't hear you mention that one. Okay, all right, sorry.
That was the very first movie that I said if I was putting a 4th movie on there, it might be 48 Hours.
Got you. When you said it, I must have been thinking of a different movie. Okay. Happy birthday to Mr. Eddie Murphy today. All right. Anything else we need to hit, Ketch, other than setting them up for the rest of the day?
No, man, we're good. Absolutely tune in later today for the Orange Bloods Recruiting Hour. Jason Sukumel will be giving a full preview of what will be a pretty monster recruiting weekend set of visits for the Longhorns. So don't miss that. And let me double check, see where we're at on likes. Let me hit refresh. Mm-hmm. I'll be damned if the number didn't still say 56.
Still at Lawrence Taylor?
It was still at Lawrence Taylor. I need that thing to at least be around John Dutton. It's at 81. We're Terrell Owens.
Oh, there we go.
Come on, get us up to 100. But we're at least a little higher than we were before.
Hey, and I know at least a little bit about this YouTube thing. If somebody watches later and they're watching tonight or what, they can still watch
button. Yes.
They can like it then, right?
Of course.
Because when I'm watching Eric Bischoff in the middle of the night talk about wrestling angles, I click a like button. Come on, people. If I can do it for Bischoff, you can do it for us. Come on.
Simple as that.
There it is. Thank you for liking, subscribing, and getting those notifications to Orange Bloods Live. We appreciate it. Thanks to everybody who's in the Specs chat today. Damn near 500 of you in there as we get ready to close the doors. As Ketch said, recruiting show coming up at 4. Outsiders tonight at 8:30. We'll get Chance Mock's thoughts on the Bills losing Diggs, but also Ketch is going to jump in around 9, give us his thoughts, updated thoughts on Longhorn spring camp. We're almost halfway through. Big battles. Bo and Chance and the crew want to know about certain battles, which ones really matter and which ones maybe you're getting overhyped. Ketch will give us that stuff tonight, so check out the Outsiders. Until 12 noon tomorrow, we are House Divided. Take care of yourselves.